Grand Rising, all. How's everyone doing?
Grand Rising, everyone.
If everyone can hear us, go ahead and give us those ones.
Put them ones up. Let us know. Checking the audio.
Did everybody hear us out there? If you can, give us those ones. That way we know the vocals are right. Give everybody a chance to get in before we go ahead and get started.
Mhm.
We will be continuing with the Civil War. We finally got finished with Joseph Brant last night. And I guess we can moving on to the, let's see, Catawba.
I would guess so. What is it? Okay.
Mic check, mic check.
What's going on?
1, 2.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.
All right. Letting everybody know again, you can find us on our YouTube channel. You can find us at autonomousassembly.com. And you can find us at Autonomous Assembly on Twitch television.
Exactly. Make sure that they can hear us. Let's see if they can hear us. I didn't see anyone. So let's see.
Oh, I'm playing it back. It's loud and clear.
Okay. Good. All right. Thanks. Want to make sure. Cool things. Grand Rising Antonio. Grand Rising Free.
Grand Rising Peace.
Grand Rising Trav.
Peace, Trav.
Morning.
For another great Grand Rising. It shows we're blessed to see the sun.
Most definitely. So we're going to be covering the Catawba. Let's do this. I'm going to put the link in the chat. When you get a chance, Bones, change the title.
Yeah, I'm changing it now. That's what I'm actually doing at the process right now.
So yeah, we're gonna move on to the Catawba. Yeah, get some water right quick. Give me a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why do I feel we're going to find out some very interesting things about the Catawba Bones?
That's it. Down that road again.
So hopefully everybody has their hard hats, shovels, have to pull out a backhoe. The Catawbas. The Catawba, also known as Issa, or Iswa, but most commonly known Iswa. People of the river are a federally recognized tribe of Native Americans known as the Catawba Indian Nation. They live in the southeastern United States on the Catawba River at the border of North Carolina near the city of Rock Hill, South Carolina. They were once considered one of the most powerful Southeastern Siouan-speaking tribes in the Carolina Piedmont, as well as one of the most powerful tribes in the South as a whole. The Catawba were among the East Coast tribes who made selective alliances with some of the early European colonists. I'm not surprised. When these colonists agreed to help them in their ongoing conflicts with other tribes in the region, these were primarily the tribes of different language families, the Iroquois, who ranged south from the Great Lakes area in New York, the Algonquin, Shawnee, and Lenape, and the Iroquois Cherokee, who fought for control over the large Ohio Valley, including what is in present-day West Virginia. Now, didn't we just talk about these tribes?
Yep.
During the American Revolutionary War, the Catawba supported the American colonists against the British, decimated by colonial smallpox epidemics, warfare, and cultural disruption. The Catawba declined markedly in number in the late 18th and 19th century. Some Catawba continued to live in their homelands in South Carolina, while others joined the Choctaw or Cherokee, at least temporarily. Terminated as a tribe by the federal government in 1959, the Catawba Indian Nation had to reassert their sovereignty and treaty rights. In 1973, they established their tribal enrollment and began the process of regaining federal recognition. In 1993, their federal recognition was reestablished, and along with a $50 million settlement by the federal government and state of South Carolina to their long-standing land claim. The tribe was also officially recognized by the state of South Carolina in 1993. Their headquarters are at Rock Hill, South Carolina. Well, there's something we can add to that. There is a state-recognized Catawba Siouan-speaking tribe out in Ohio that's in line for federal recognition. So not all the Catawba stay south. Many of them migrated north. So this decimation probably is a little, aka a lot, over-exaggerated. I'm just saying. Terminated as a tribe. Okay, I already read that. As of 2006, the population of the Catawba was increased to about 2,600, most in South Carolina, with smaller groups in Oklahoma, Colorado, and Ohio, and elsewhere. The Catawba Reservation, located in two disjoint sections in York County, South Carolina, east of Rock Hill, reported a 2010 census population of 841 inhabitants. The Catawba language, which is being revived, is part of the Siouan family. Unless we talk about Tulo. So let me go back up. See if there's anything that we need to visit before we go any further. So basically, the Catawba had beefs with Iroquois.
Mm-hmm. And if you
go ahead.
And if you people pay attention to it, it states where it says the Catawba were among the East Coast tribes who made selective alliances with some of the earlier European colonists. And then it goes on, when the colonists agreed to help them in their ongoing conflicts with other tribes in the region, these were primarily the tribes of different language families. And you see the Iroquois, Algonquin, Shawnee, Lenape. And it goes back to what we was reading, that different tribes were making deals with different colonists to fight each other. You know, just something I just wanted to highlight back to where we're still responsible for the foolishness. That we were making deals with different colonizers to get different instruments to eliminate different tribes. You know, just wanted to point that out real quick, that's all.
And again, we still have to take this with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this is information based off of Wikipedia. We have to hear from different tribal leaders and genealogists who know the history.
Mm-hmm.
I can contribute some minorly, but not a lot. Or maybe be able to confirm some of this information. But for the most part, any Catawba Sapani that would like to contribute some factual information, please do not hesitate to do so. Because again,
welcome.
Having this information from different factual perspectives makes it easier to confirm this information or debunk it. Because at the end of the day, it's all about getting the confirmed information. So let's go a little bit into history,
Uh-huh.
So from the earliest period, the Catawba have always been known as Iswa or Issa. From their residence on the principal stream of the region, they call both the present-day Catawba and Watry rivers Iswa. The Iroquois frequently include them under the general term Tutory or Tutorage Ruin, also known as Tutelo. The Iroquois collectively use this term to apply to all the Southern Siouan-speaking tribes. So are they saying that Tutelo is a Iroquois word? Let's look this up. I'll put it in the chat. Give me a second.
Yeah, by reading it that way, that's what it sounds like, that the Iroquois named them.
Again, because the tribes are being talked about, well, when we see the names, it's based off of what's being said about them. So the Tutelo, also Tutero, Tuteroy, Tutera, Isan.
It goes back to what we were saying before. The majority of the names that people were identified by was by the language that you spoke.
Mm-hmm. And it reads here, they were Native American people living above the fall line in present-day Virginia and West Virginia. They spoke a Siouan dialect of the Tutelo language, thought to be similar to that of their neighbors, the Monacan and the Manahakan nations. Under pressure from English settlers and Seneca Iroquois, they joined with other Virginian Siouan tribes in the late 17th century and became collectively known as the Tutelo Sapani. By 1740, they had largely left Virginia and migrated north to seek protection from their former Iroquois opponents. They were adopted by the Cayuga tribe of New York in 1753. The English name Tutelo comes from the Algonquin variant of the name that the Iroquois used for all the Virginia Southern tribes. Tuterocheron, many variant spellings. The Tutelo antonym named for themselves was Yisan, Yisaw, and Yisang. This is also connected with the name Nayasan, as well as early colonial era spellings such as Manohas Now and Oniansat. The tribe was shown by this name on early maps in what is now West Virginia. The Tutelo historic homeland was said to include an area of the Big Sandy River on the West Virginia-Kentucky border, which they call the Tuteroy River. The Iroquois drove them from this region during the later Beaver Wars, after which the Iroquois established the Ohio Valley as their hunting ground by right of conquest. Although previously known to the Virginia colonists by their other names, a form of Tutelo first appeared in the Virginia records in 1671 when the Bats and Falum expedition noted their visit to Tuterotown near what is now Salem, Virginia. A few years later, the Tutero Nasanian joined the Sapani to live on islands located where the Dan and Staunton rivers joined to become the Roanoke River. It was just above the territory of the Occoneechee. For a time, the Tutelo had a settlement in what is now Floyd County, Virginia, on the banks of the New River. Many of the sherds collected there and all the small triangular points suggest a mid to late 16th century or an early 17th century date. In 1701, they were noted as living in the headwaters of the Yadkin River in North Carolina. After 1714, collectively known as the Sapani Tutelo, they resided at Junkatapers around Fort Christiana in Brunswick County, Virginia, near the border with North Carolina. Over the 1730, remnants of the Sapani, Tutelo, and Occoneechee Indians moved north to Shamokin, Pennsylvania, and sought the protection of the Oneida Viceroy, Chickahominy. They moved further north in present-day Western New York, where they settled. These Siouan remnants were formally adopted by the Cayuga Nation of New York in 1753. The village of Coralgonal was located near present-day Ithaca, New York, and Buttermilk Falls State Park. There they lived under the protection of the Cayuga until Coralgonal, along with many other Iroquois towns, was destroyed during the American Revolution by the Sullivan Expedition of 1779. It was a retaliating from the British Iroquois raids against the American rebels. The Tutelo went to the Iroquois to Canada, where the British offered land for resettlement at what became known as the Six Nations of Grand River First Nation. They continued to live among the Cayuga and were eventually absorbed by them through intermarriage. The last known full-blooded Tutelo speaker, Nikanha, or Waskitin, or Mosquito, died in 1870 at the age of 105. He had given extensive linguistic material to the scholar Horatio Hale, who confirmed the Tutelo language as Siouan.
Horatio, maybe?
Yeah, Horatio. Thank you.
Did they pronounce it like that back in the day?
Horatio Hale. Thanks for that correction. I need all the help I can get. So many of them were adopted by the Cayuga Nation. So is this saying that they were absorbed into some of the 5 nations?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've been taking from all these stories, that the majority of all these different tribes cross each other. And depending on the time and the situation, some got absorbed, some moved with others. That's why it goes back again. Genealogy is important. That's the only way you're going to know personally where you come from and
Peace,
where your
Black
people been.
Peace, Black. Golden Moon, sorry. All right.
Grand rise into the chat. Peace.
So we got a couple of different directions where we can go. Start at the bottom.
Whichever direction, I'm with it.
Let's start with the last known full-blooded Tutelo speaker, the Kanha or Nakanha. Now again, you have to take this information with a grain of salt. There's some truth in it, but that don't mean it's the absolute truth. So we're not stating that it is. Just like with any information, please do the research for yourself. And those genealogists that know the actual Catawba Sapani history, if you could provide some information, please do so. Nikanha, also known as Waskitin and Mosquito, was a full-blooded speaker of Tutelo, a Virginian Siouan language. He is reported to have been around 106 when he died at Six Nations of Grand River Nation, Ontario. So he was absorbed into the Six Nations, which were Algonquin. He says, so this would give his birth date of 1765. The year before his death, he met with the ethnologist Horatio Hawley, who gave the following description of him. His appearance, as we first saw him basking in the sunshine on the slope before his cabin, confirmed the reports which I had heard, both of his great age and his marked intelligence. A wrinkled, smiling countenance, a half-full head, half-shut eyes, white hair, a scanty, stubbly beard, fingers bent with age like a bird's claw, is the description recorded in my notebook. Not only in, what is that? Sodomy, but also in demeanor and character. He differed strikingly from the grave and composed Iroquois among whom he dwelt. The lively, mirthful disposition of his race survived in full force in its latest member. His replies to our inquiries were intermingled with many jocose remarks and much good-humored laughter. Nikanha told Hawley that his father had been a Tutelo chief named Iswä, while his mother had died when he was a child, leaving him to be raised by his uncle. In 1779, when he was approximately 14, the Tutelo village of Coriogonel, New York, was attacked during the Sullivan expedition of the Revolutionary War, and the remnants fled among the Cayuga Nation to Grand River. Nikanha also served in the War of 1812. His wife was Cayuga, and he had only spoken Cayuga at home for years, until Hawley induced him to provide about 100 words of the Tutelo language of his youth. Hawley was collecting the information on the Tutelo from the few surviving individuals who had preserved any knowledge of it, who were, aside from Nikanha, heavily mixed with the Cayuga. On the basis of the vocabulary and the grammar that Hawley collected, he was able to confirm the status of Tutelo as a Siouan language akin to Dakota and Hadassah. All right. So they were absorbed into the Six Nations of Grand River First Nation. Some of them, anyway. Like I said, take the information with a grain of salt. There's some truth in it, but not totally. So what's your take on that, Bones?
I mean, it's what I kind of expected. I expected to be no different from what we read from the other tribes so far. Because it's still in a time frame when everybody's scrambling and making their alliances with different people. And it's basically, it seems like anybody who went up north during a particular time frame got absorbed by the Iroquois, the Six Nations, basically.
Yeah, that explains why they became so mighty.
Yeah, because think about it. When we just went through with Joseph Grant, the Six Nations started assimilating everybody.
Yeah.
And history kind of tells us that, because who do we know of now the most? The Six Nations? You know, not trying to be funny, and then I'm just saying, if there's more stories and more history on them that's widely known, it's because they were spreading through other tribes. It's not saying that they're solely responsible by themselves, by no means, because other tribes as well joined with them, and they just kept expanding. It was just expansion, basically. So I'm still like, wow. But we have to accept the fact, you know, not all, but some tribes are responsible. You know, I'm still in the wild mode though.
And it seems like, considering they were helping the English or what is eventually the 13 colonies would have helped them, considering that they were receiving help from the Tulo. But it was just like they were left to their own devices when it was being, according to these stories, chased by the Iroquois, particularly the Seneca.
Mm-hmm. And then the dude that's collecting, the European that's collecting the language.
Horatio Holly.
Yeah, that kind of struck me because I'm like, okay, if you're saying he's the last of the Tulo speaking and you're collecting a language, how do we know what it is today?
Yeah. What I'm saying.
And then they never tell you, and maybe it's me, maybe I haven't came across them enough, but I don't hear too much history about the Southern Sioux like that though. But then, like I said, it doesn't surprise me. The further we go in this story, we probably hear the same thing we heard from the other tribe. After a while, the ones that went up north and made them first deals wrote off the ones that didn't move.
Well, I have an opportunity to visit Virginia Tech a lot because of Danielle. We know that in 2016, Virginia Tech admitted that it sits on Tulo and Monacan land, or what they call Monacan. And that's out there in Lynchburg, coastal West Virginia. Tennessee. So there's a lot of information, a lot of history that could be gained from that. And I'm sure as we continue to do research and talk to some of the tribes out there, we'll be able to get a lot of information and be able to put these pieces together. And they actually have a Tulo book that has, some of the languages in it. So I'm sure there's some things that could be answered out there. So stay tuned. We'll definitely make sure we get the information. So what I wanted to do now was go up to the Oneida chief, Shikiyami, or Swatana. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat because he's an Oneida chief. And let's see what they have to say about him. Again, take it with a grain of salt. There's some truth in this. There's also embellishment. That's what we'll say. There's some embellishment.
Well, yeah, they even told us that there's embellishments in it. Because what did they say? I'm going to go back to the Joseph Brandt story. That's why it's so important. They told you that they embellish certain stories to incite certain emotions and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why we always say genealogy, which is the study of lineage, which goes hand in hand with this. Any information we give to you, just research the information. The sources are here, click on it, and you have to, like a lot of people tell you, oh, it's from online, Wikipedia, Google. All you're doing is taking these sources and you're lining all these sources up together to find the cohesive part that links it together. And that's most likely the real story. Because what it said, there's always three sides.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way you're going to find the third side. You have to take as much of the written information, oral information that you can get and line it all up. And whatever stands, stands. Whatever doesn't, get rid of.
Facts. So it reads here that Swatana was an Oneida chief and overseer for the Iroquois Confederacy. In his position as chief and overseer, Shikiyami served as a supervisor of the Six Nations, overseeing the Shawnee and Lenape tribes in central Pennsylvania along the Susquehanna River and protecting the southern border of the Iroquois Confederacy. While his birth date is not known, his first recorded historical appearance was in Philadelphia in 1728. In 1728, he was living in Shawnee Village in Pennsylvania near modern Milton and moved in 1742 to the village of Shamokin, modern-day Sunbury, in the confluence of the west and north branches of the Susquehanna. Shakeyami was an important figure in the early history of the province of Pennsylvania and served as a go-between for the colonial government in Philadelphia and the Iroquois chiefs in the Onondaga. He welcomed Conrad Weiser to Shamokin and served as Weiser's guide to his journeys into the frontier of Pennsylvania and New York. Here we go. So he served as a go-between for the colonial government in Philadelphia and the Iroquois chiefs. So he was a liaison. Iroquois chiefs would talk to him. He would talk to the colonial government in Philadelphia, which basically means he spoke their language. Everybody tribing up, forming alliances.
Yep, that's what normally happens.
Antonio says, find a grain of gold in this spot, then take out your shovel and start going. All right. The Gadam title is Emissary for the Iroquois in Pennsylvania. So, although it's not known when or where Shikeyami was born, his first appearance is in the historical record is 1728 visit to Philadelphia, the provincial capital of Pennsylvania. The Quaker leadership in Philadelphia soon realized that Shakeyami was an important Indian leader, and he was invited back to the capital in 1729. He was described as Shakeyami, a trusty good man, a great lover of the English. Shikeyami was sent by the government of Philadelphia to invite the leaders of the Iroquois Confederacy to a council in 1732. The initial meeting was a success, and both sides agreed to meet once again in the future. These meetings were arranged by Conrad Weiser and Shikeyami. It has been said, though, that Shikeyami came from France but was captured by Indians as a boy. Others say that he was all Indian and was a descendant of Adastes. Guess we'll have to find out who they are. During a later meeting, Shikeyami, Weiser, and the Pennsylvania negotiated a 1736 treaty in Philadelphia, included a deed whereby the Iroquois sold the land drained by the Delaware River and south of the Blue Mountain, since the Iroquois had never until then laid claim to this land. This purchase represented a significant swing in Pennsylvania policy toward the Native Americans. William Penn had never taken sides in disputes between tribes, but by this purchase, the Pennsylvanians were favoring the Iroquois over the Lenape. So they already starting to put divisiveness between two tribes who share the same language. Along the walking purchase of 1737, also arranged with the assistance of Shikeyami and Conrad Weiser, this treaty exacerbated Pennsylvanian Lenape relations. The results of this policy shift would help induce the Lenapes to the side with the French during the French and Indian Wars, which would result in many colonial deaths. It did, however, help induce the Iroquois to continue to side with the British over the French. Wow. See the history, see how it works, see how they do, and see how we let them do it.
Yeah, because we were so eager. We were so eager to get the upper hand on each other. I mean, that's where we must be honest.
Yeah. I'm starting to get annoyed. So let's go back to this walking purchase of 1737, shall we? Because it's in here for a reason, so let's take a look at it and see where it goes. We'll put it in the chat. And we encourage those in the chat, whether you choose to respond or not, take this information, look it up. If you find anything that's of importance or you think it should be pointed out, please let us know. Because we are not the owners of the information, nor the, scholars. We're just reading what we're seeing. So there's some things that we may overlook, not take into consideration, or just blatantly miss. Not intentionally, but it happens. So if you see something, say something. Okay, the walking purchase or walking treaty was an alleged 1737 agreement between the Penn family, the original proprietors of the province of Pennsylvania in the colonial area, later the American state of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania after 1776, and the Lenape Native Indians, also known as the Delaware Indians. By it, the Penn family had proprietors claim an area of 1.2 million acres along the northern reaches of the Delaware River at the northeastern boundary between the province of Pennsylvania and the West New Jersey area of the east of the province of New Jersey. Later, after the American Revolutionary War, and forced the Lenape to vacate it. The Lenape appealed to the Iroquois Indian tribe further north for aid of the issue and was refused. In the legal suit court case of Delaware Nation versus Pennsylvania, the Delaware Nation, three later federally recognized Lenape tribes, and its descendants in the 21st century claimed 314 acres of land included in the original so-called purchase in 1737 by the U.S. District Court, granted the Commonwealth's motion to dismiss. It ruled that the case was non-justiciable. Although it acknowledged that the Indian title appeared to have been extinguished by fraud. This ruling held through several appeal actions made through the several levels of the United States Courts of Appeals. The Supreme Court of the United States refused to hear the case, which had the effect of upholding the lower appeals court's decision. So this was a supposed treaty. So basically it sounds like it was not ratified.
Mm-hmm.
It was fraudulent.
I've heard of these before.
Founder of the colony, William Penn, enjoyed a reputation for fair dealing with the Lenape. However, his heirs, John Penn and Thomas Penn, abandoned many of the elder father Penn's moderate practices. In 1736, they claimed a deed from the 1686 by which the Lenape promised to sell a tract beginning at the junction of the upper Delaware River and the tributary Lehigh River, and extended as far west as a man could walk in a day and a half, led to become known as the Walking Purchase or the Walking Treaty of 1737. This document may have been an unsigned, unratified treaty or even an outright forgery. The Penn's agents began selling land in the Lehigh Valley in the disputed area along the Lehigh River to colonists while the Lenape still inhabited the area.
Didn't we hear this before already? And it seems like, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nah, you
just
good.
when I hear these things, I had no, these snaps. We've been hearing this, that tribes constantly selling land that belongs to other tribes. That so far, how many tribes we done talked about so far? And every one except for the ones that didn't want them here no more. We done read stories so far of them kicking people off their own land that they don't even own. Wow.
Yeah. See what this chat saying. That's what's up. They talk about genealogy. Yeah, go ahead and get that help.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the more we read and the more we dig up, it becomes clearer.
So I wonder how much alcohol was involved in this.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out. To allow the Lapinese misgivings and suspicions, Penn Land Office agent and Provincial Secretary James Logan produced a map incorrectly misrepresenting the Father Lehigh River as a relatively closer to Tohickon Creek and included a dotted line showing a seemingly reasonable path that the walkers would take. Satisfied that the land in question was not so terrible a price to honor, the OD, the Lape, finally signed. So he had a forged map. According to the popular account, Lenape leaders assumed that about 40 miles was the longest distance that could be covered under these conditions. Provincial Secretary Logan hired the three fastest runners in the colony, Edward Marshall, Solomon Jennings, and James Yates, to run on a prepared trail. They were supervised during the walk by the sheriff of Bucks County, Timothy Smith. The walk occurred on September 19, 1737. Only Marshall finished, reaching the modern vicinity of present-day Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, 70 miles away. At the end of the walk, Sheriff Smith drew a particular line back toward the southeast and claimed all the land east of these two lines, ending at the Delaware River. This resulted in an area of 1.2 million acres, roughly equivalent to the size of Rhode Island, located in the modern 7 counties of eastern Pennsylvania: Pike, Monroe, Carbon, Schuylkill, Northampton, Lehigh, and Bucks. The Delaware leaders appealed for assistance to the Iroquois Confederacy to the north, who claimed hegemony over the Delaware. The Iroquois leaders decided that it was not in their best interest politically to intervene on behalf of their southern neighbors, the Delaware. Pennsylvania Provincial Secretary James Logan had already made a deal with the Iroquois to support the colonial side. As a result, the Lenape had to soon vacate the walking purchase lands. Chief Lenape Winslow and other Lenape leaders continued to protest the arrangement, as the Lenape were forced into Champkin and Wyoming River valleys, already crowded with other displaced tribes. Some Lenape later moved further west into the Ohio country. What's up?
I'm glad that you came across that, because I remember we was talking about that last night, that you noticed that multiple tribes are compacted into one area by moving around. And we also know when some tribes, not all of them, some tribes, if 2 or 3 tribes had members and they came together, they took on a totally new name.
Right.
You just pointing that out for people who didn't catch it.
Getting lost in the sauce.
Yeah, and that's why some people are having a hard time locating their tribes or even their family, because this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I at? Some Lenape later moved further west into Ohio country, and the southern and western claims of the Kingdom of France in their territory of New France, Quebec, west of the French Fort Duquesne, later Fort Pitt, and later still Pittsburgh. Okay. And this was at the forks of the Ohio. Because of the walking purchase, the Lenape grew to distrust the Pennsylvania government, and its once good reputation with the various tribes, begun by a wise, peaceful William Penn, was lost forever. So his sons, William Jr. and the other, basically messed this up. They agreed.
No, but wait till you start reading the district court case of 2004, right up under it.
You and your cliff ain't friends. Well, tell you what, you go ahead and do that. I'm gonna get some coffee.
No problem, I got you there. It says Delaware Nation versus Pennsylvania. District Court, 2004. In 2004, the Delaware Nation filed suit against Pennsylvania in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, seeking 314 acres, they said 1.27 kilometers, included in the 1737 walking purchase and patent in 1741, which was known as Tama's Place. The court granted the Commonwealth motion to dismiss, according to the district court. It says Penn's government and practices apparently differed sharply from the Puritan-led governments of the other American colonies. The most striking difference was Penn's ability to cultivate a positive relationship based on mutual respect with the Native Americans inhabiting the province. While the Puritans stole from the Indians, Penn achieved peaceful relations with the Indians. The district court recounted its understanding of the facts of the walking purchase. This is directly from the court case. It says Penn's sons were less interested than their father in cultivating a relationship with the Lenni Lenape. Thomas Penn in particular is reportedly responsible for executing the walking purchase of 1737. Pursuant to which Thomas Penn approached the Lenni Lenape chiefs and falsely represented an old, incomplete, unsigned draft of a deed as a legal contract. Thomas Penn represented to the Lenni Lenape chiefs that some 50 years prior, the ancestors of the Lenni Lenape had signed documents stating that the land to be deeded to the Penns was as much as could be covered in a day and a half's walk. Believing that their forefathers had made such an agreement, the Lenni Lenape chiefs agreed to the terms of the deed and consented to the day and a half walk. The Lenni Lenape chiefs trusted that the white men would take a leisurely walk through the tangled Pennsylvania forest along the Delaware. The chiefs were not aware that they were about to lose a significant amount of land. Unbeknownst to the Lenni Lenape, Thomas Penn took measures to ensure that the distance covered by his walkers would be as large as possible. Thomas Penn took measures to ensure that the distance covered by his walkers would be as large as possible, among other things. Thomas Penn had a straight path cleared through the forest and hired 3 of the fastest runners in the province. Thomas Penn had a straight path cleared through the forest and hired 3 of the fastest runners in the province. He and his agent spent weeks mapping their route, which went northwest rather than north as the treaty specified, hacking trails out of the woods. In addition, Thomas Penn promised that the fastest runner would receive £5 sterling and 500 acres of land. In the end, the runners of the walking purchase of 1737 procured 1,200 square miles, more than 1 million acres of Lenni Lenape land in Pennsylvania. Included the land procured was land commonly referred to as Folks of the Delaware, which contained the parcel of land at the center of this dispute. The Lenni Lenape complained to the King of England about the execution of the walk by Penn and his agents to no avail. In response, the Lenni Lenape began their movement westwards in compliance with their ancestors' reported agreement to the terms of the walking purchase deed. Over 100 years later, experts examining this deed concluded that the deed was forgery. As a result of the walking purchase, members of the Lenni Lenape tribe, now recognized as the Delaware Nation, were segregated into pockets of parcels of land surrounded by non-tribal settlers. Such is what occurred with respect to a grant of land to Chief Tatame and his band of Delawares. It states more, the Delaware concluded that Thomas Penn had sovereign authority, but challenged the transaction on the ground that it was fraudulent. The court held that the justness of the extinguishment of the aboriginal title is non-judiciable, including in the case of fraud, because the extinguishment occurred prior to the passage of the first Indian Non-Intercourse Act in 1970. That act did not avail to Delaware. Circuit Court, 2006. The U.S. Courts of Appeals for the Third Circuit affirmed the decision of the District Court. The Third Circuit upheld the aboriginal title may valid be extinguished by fraud. and further held that the tribe had waived the issue of whether Penn was actually a sovereign purchaser. Moreover, the circuit held that any grants to the tribe subsequent to the extinguishment could not reestablish Aboriginal title. Therefore, the circuit did not consider the merits of the tribe's argument that the Delaware Nation claims in its appeal that the King of England, not Thomas Penn, was the sovereign over the territory that included Tatamami's place. Therefore, Thomas Penn could not extinguish Aboriginal title, via the walk-in purchase, and consequently, the Delaware Nation maintains right of occupancy and use. Specifically, the circuit found it insufficient that the complaint had alleged that Penn was accountable directly to the King of England. The U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case on appeal.
Yo. So they're just gonna run as fast as they can in a day and a half.
This is the thing. Who do you think he had running for him?
Some of us. Who the fastest runner's gotta be?
I'm like,
I'll tell you that.
I don't think you can make a movie better than this right now.
This is ridiculous, man.
I'm sitting here looking
The trick of all
at
tricks.
some documents about these people that did the run.
I'm like, wow.
Did you check out the definition for Aboriginal title?
No, what's the definition?
Yeah, you can go ahead and read it off. I was pulling up the other title real quick while you're doing that. The act.
All right, it says Aboriginal title is a common law doctrine that the land rights of indigenous peoples to customary tenure persist after the assumption of sovereignty under the settler colonialism. The requirements of proof for the recognition of Aboriginal title, the content of Aboriginal title, the methods of extinguishing Aboriginal title, and the availability of compensation in the case of extinguishment vary significantly by jurisdiction. Nearly all jurisdictions are in agreement that Aboriginal title is an inalienable and that it may be held either individually or collectively. It says Aboriginal title was first acknowledged in the early 19th century in decisions in which indigenous peoples were not a party. Let's see. Significant Aboriginal title litigation resulting in victories for indigenous peoples did not arise until recent decades. And it says the majority of court cases have been litigated in Australia, Canada, Malaysia, New Zealand, and the United States. It is an important area of comparative law, which, with many cases being cited as persuasive authority across jurisdictions, many commentators believe that the doctrine is applicable in all common law legal systems. It's also referred to as indigenous title, native title, particularly in Australia, original Indian title, particularly in the United States, and customary title, particularly in New Zealand. Okay, let's see. Well,
Wow.
yeah.
That's all I can say. Wow.
The original Indian title.
Yeah, the next one I wanted to that was in there that was interesting. The Non-Intercourse Act, also known as the Indian Intercourse Act or the Indian Non-Intercourse Act, is the collective name given to 6 statutes passed by Congress in 1790, 1793, 1796, 1799, 1802, and 1834 to set American boundaries of reservations. The wow. The various acts also regulated commerce between Americans and Native Americans. The most notable provisions of the act regulated that inability of Aboriginal title, the inalienability of Aboriginal title in the United States, a continuous source of litigation for almost 200 years. The prohibition of purchase of Indian lands without the approval of the federal government has its origins in the Royal Proclamation of 1763 and the Confederation Congress Proclamation of 1783. There's something here that stuck out to me quick. The most notable provisions of the act regulate that the inalienability of Aboriginal title in the United States. Y'all give me 1 second, put this in here.
So what does that mean? The inalienability.
If I wanted to, then what it says, this is that which is inalienable cannot be bought, sold, or transferred from one individual to another. The personal rights to life and liberty guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States are inalienable. Similar various types of property are inalienable, such as rivers, streams, and highways.
So in property law, alienation is the voluntary act of an owner of some property disposing of the property while
Getting up and leaving.
is
So when we left,
property or property right to be sold or otherwise transferred from one party to another.
Do y'all see it? Do y'all get it? Oh my goodness. Take what we're reading right now. When the Lenni Lenape was challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
They lost, and none of our ancestors really had a chance to stand up in court because they left. What we kept saying before, that if you leave the land unoccupied, what is that considered?
Abandoned.
So basically, they came in and put an abandoned land act to seize Indian land to justify why they can buy it and resell it.
So
they was using migration patterns and history to create these laws to get this land. And also forcing people to leave.
Because if you force them to leave, you can, now that they're gone, you create these titles and stuff, and you take it. It goes further on to say the first 4 acts expired after 4 years. The 1802 and 1834 Act have no expiration. Wow. The versions of the act in force at the time of the illicit conveyance determines that the law applies. The courts have found few legal differences between the 5 versions of the act. For example, 3 dissecting justices in South Carolina versus Catawba Indian Tribe in 1986 noted that the 1793 Act expanded the scope of the 1790 Act by applying the prohibition not only to lands but claims. The original act passed on July 22nd, 1790 provides no sales of lands made by any Indians or any nation of tribe of Indians within the United States shall be valid to any person or persons or to any state, whether having the right of pre-exemption to such lands or not, unless the same shall be made and duly executed at some public treaty held under the authority of the United States. 1793 Act provides no purchase of grants. Hold on, let me make sure I put this in here. Put it in there. I wasn't sure if I put it in the chat, so I just put it in the chat. All right, 1793 Act provides no purchase of grants of land of or of any title or claim thereto from any Indians or nation of tribe of Indians within the bounds of the United States shall be of any valid in law or equal, unless the same be made by a treaty or a convention entered into pursuant to the Constitution. The 1796 Act provides no purchase, lease, or other conveyance of lands or of any title or claim thereto from any Indian or nation or tribe of Indians within the bounds of the United States shall be or any valid in law equally unless the same be made by treaty, convention entering into pursuance to the Constitution. Okay. The 1799 Act is the same. The 1802 Act is the same. 1834 is the same. All right, now we're dropping down to, matter of fact, I don't even want to go down yet.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that these acts go hand in hand with the census, that these acts go hand in hand. Oh my goodness.
So basically, what it boils down to, and Antonio put it best, I got multiple properties, but I'm out of town because you set my other house on fire. You gonna come in and say finders keepers.
Mm-hmm.
This is important because what it does, is creates a challenge for those who want to just purchase some land, put it in the trust, right? Put the land in the trust, and
Uh-huh.
the tribe.
Yep.
I found out my ancestors owned this land. It was stolen land. Now we got a problem.
You know what's weird about this?
Go ahead.
But you know what's very weird about this? They telling you how they handle the acts of stolen land just by reading these acts. No purchase or grant of lands or of any title or claim thereto from an Indian or nation or tribe of Indians within the bounds of the United States shall be of any valid in law or equal to, unless the same be made by a treaty or a convention entered into the pursuant to the Constitution. The Constitution, the census, I bet you, if we looked at 1793, I'm willing a ratification to the Constitution was done. Something about Indians and the people who was living here. It's probably there's one in 1796 as well.
So David,
no intercourse acts of 1790, 1793, 1796, 1799. That's no intercourse acts.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I'm willing to bet them acts go hand in hand with the census and the constitutional, because the only way that you can basically, only way Indian can get land, sell land and have his own land, it got to be put into the Constitution.
So what about this, the Aboriginal title in the United States?
It doesn't matter, because when you read, if you understand what the law states, once you get up and you leave, the Aboriginal title no longer exists. You voluntarily left. There's always a choice. It doesn't matter that somebody set your house on fire. Don't get me wrong. Listen, somebody set your house on fire, somebody threatening you, somebody shooting at your family every day. You still have a choice. You pack up and leave, or you fight to the end. It might sound cold, but we have to be honest. There was a choice made. And by people not reading and minding their business, we screwed ourselves. They honored the treaty just because somebody said your people signed it. They ain't do no research. They ain't go ask no elders. They ain't look up nothing. And watch these people cheat. It's supposed to be a walk. You're going to own Indians, man. The Indian runners who ran for this dude are sellouts.
Bones. It's even more significant than that, because when you have government to government relationships and constitutions are changed, they're supposed to be changed on both sides. The Constitution for the tribe and the Constitution for the government. So whoever the chief was that was the liaison knew about this information and probably signed off on it. Somebody like a Joseph Brand, who had a father who was either French, Dutch, Banton, or German, or Spanish. Somebody working both sides. And no one was checking them. That's the reason why it had to be in the Constitution, because it had to be an agreement of both sides, two parties with witnesses. Government to government relationships, AKA business. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just typed something in while you was talking interesting, because, I be getting that little twitch. Brain has to know. How about there is a constitution, the Constitution of 1793. The primary task of the convention, when sealed in the fall of 1792, had been drafted to a new Republican Constitution only after the purge of the, what's this, Grodins, Girondinds.
Hold on, where we at?
No, I was going through. Now I have to find a better one. Hold on. I'm pulling up constitutional acts and different amendments and things they were doing. It's weird too. 1793 is the year of the French Constitution as well. And what was you saying, Osella? I was just looking something up real quick.
No, I was trying to figure this thing. It has a long time in here. It's weird. It says, let's see where we at. Native American tribes and nations establish Aboriginal title by actual, continuous, and exclusive use and occupancy for a long time, quote unquote. Individuals may also establish Aboriginal title if their ancestors held title as individuals. Let's see. Unlike other jurisdictions, the content of Aboriginal title is not limited to historical or traditional land uses. And they talk about alienated again, except to, let's see. Their Aboriginal title may not be alienated except to the federal government or with the approval of Congress. It's distinct from the lands of Native Americans own in fee simple and occupy under federal trust. There's that trust word. It says the power of Congress to extinguish Aboriginal title by purchase or conquest, or with a
Read
clear
that again.
statement.
Read it again.
Let me see. Maybe you didn't hear me. Let me repeat that. The power of Congress to extinguish Aboriginal title by, quote, purchase or conquest, unquote, or with clear statement is plenary and exclusive.
So if I send a militia into your tribe
Hmm.
and run you off, who that land belong to now?
It's yours. It's yours.
The conqueror.
The conqueror.
You can have it.
See, and that's the thing where I'm like, what we was talking about, some of our ancestors fell asleep at the wheel. That's an understatement.
Yeah, or sleep on their watch.
Wow.
Antonio is deeper than that. He says, so we had to show continuously that we were actively indigenous. Historic use of the land did not matter. Somebody signed a treaty in agreement to this. And 9 times out of 10, it was a chief of a mixed race, a chief who had a European father and an Indian mother, who in many cases was a princess of a matriarchal tribe, i.e., Six Nations Iroquois.
Thanks. Oh, let me finish up these last few sentences. Such extinguishment is not compensable under the Fifth Amendment, although various statutes provide for compensation. Unextinguished Aboriginal title provides a federal common law cause of action for ejectment or trespass, for which there is federal subject matter jurisdiction. Many potentially meritorious tribal lawsuits have been settled by congressional legislation providing for the extinguishment of Aboriginal title as well as monetary compensation or the approval of gaming and gambling enterprises. And that's the end of that.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't I tell you we was going to need some shovels and a hard hat today? Just asking.
All I can be is just like, wow.
But this speaks to what's going on today. From the standpoint of being lazy and not finding your tribe and making a statement or claim that I'm going to purchase some land in trust, and then I'm going to start my own tribe. It's already been stated. It's a matter of court record that this land was stolen. anybody who intends to purchase land and put it in a trust for a made-up tribe that has no constitution or government-to-government agreement is in fact purchasing stolen land to not only have it taken back, but potentially making you a criminal. What law do you possess to keep that from happening? If your goal is to be lazy and not find your tribe, but to create a tribe and buy stolen land and put it in a trust. If you can show me how you can get away with doing that without going to jail for theft, knowingly, I'll wait.
I had to shake it off real quick.
Even though the Europeans don't own the land belongs to somebody already. Somebody in somebody's tribe that's been on that land for thousands of years. I highly doubt there is 1 acre in all of the Americas, North, Central, and South, that does not belong to some tribe. So, can somebody please tell me how you're just going to create a tribe, buy some land, put it in a trust, and then not be indicted for grand larceny?
I'll wait.
I'll wait. I dare you to try. Go ahead. See what happens.
The one tall tale story, and TMA's touched on it. A lot of these tribes went along, not all of the members in the tribes, but the leading officials and representatives of these tribes went along with these deals. And as long as they were getting paid, I mean, think about it. Look at the runners who ran. They ran to help sell off their land. Wow. We got a lot of cleaning up to do.
Odom asks a question. He says, TMH, we have land, and why do we have to make up a tribe unless it's in another state? Odom, there is a movement. Don't know who started it, but it's a movement that basically says, I'm paraphrasing, we own all of this land because we're indigenous. So because we were here before the colonizers, we can basically lay claim to any land because we're indigenous and set up shop and run a tribe. By the mere fact that we're indigenous, it don't matter what tribe belonged on this land first. Because we're indigenous, we usurp the tribes and the colonizers.
And add on to the people saying that a lot of these names, we shouldn't use them because they was given to us by the colonizers. History teaching you it was your own tribesmen naming you off the language that you spoke.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you look in the mirror and you realize the person that you need to be mad at is self first, what do you got to say? I told you we're gonna do the real work here. We're gonna dig up the truth, and no matter how ugly it is, we're gonna face it and fix it. We got to get back on code. And to add on to the whole sovereign thing, you hollering, you been here, so you should get land. You don't even know who you are.
This is what I'll say. I dare you to go onto somebody's tribal land and make that claim and see what happens. Take your camera with you. Record it.
And my thing is this: if all you have to do is find your tribe and tie back in, why run from the work? Why try to reinvent the wheel? How can you sit here and say you honor your ancestors, but you're making the same mistakes by packing up and trying to start someplace else? Isn't that what jammed them up? That instead of standing and fighting for who they are, a lot of them just packed up and left. Like, you know what? We're going to go over here. And why did they pack up and just leave? Let's be honest. Because a lot of them wanted to keep their standing relationships with the foreigners. Not all tribes. We read yesterday about one tribe executed their chief behind this foolishness.
There's always a remnant. Goldemore says, this is so ugly. And our people are suffering because some thieves came here and did some trickery. So I want to amend that, Goldemore.
Mm-hmm.
Someone let the thieves in.
Thieves of our own people. We cannot keep ignoring that it was tribesmen working with them. Let's not forget, over the last week, we read about Indians that went over to England, that were negotiating.
The Catawba had a long-standing relationship with the Europeans as well.
Didn't Joseph Bryan and them? Not Joseph Bryan. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the one tribe that outlawed liquor and the beer, and they all converted to be Catholics.
I can't remember the tribe either.
But you see that it was your own tribesmen, your own leaders, your own elected leaders. Yes, some of these chiefs were of mixed race, if we want to use just using race for a lack of a better term at the moment. But how did that happen? Facts Copper Indio, where he says this isn't so much about waging war against an oppressive concept or culture, but more about facing what was done and making peace with our people. Because we did the first wrong to our people. We allowed an outsider to come in and harm our people. We're not noticing that the tribes were fighting tribes? Go ahead.
The Catawba are the keepers of the waterways, which basically means that's the first line of defense. If you see somebody coming, you're supposed to repel them. Or you either usher them in, or you went and got them and brought them here, giving them credibility, street cred, ability to walk amongst you without being touched or bothered with.
Yeah, you had the one tribe that invited the Quakers here and invited them to come and build Quaker churches to teach Indians.
Mohawks.
We can't pick and choose the parts of our story that makes us feel good. We got to deal with the good and the bad. We got to judge righteously. And judging righteously means before you judge anyone else, you judge yourself and your own actions.
How do we contribute to this? How did they get here? Because you got to remember, when ships come to the land, there wasn't any port originally. So They had to get on smaller boats to come to the land.
6 to 8 people on a smaller boat.
And it was about a good, 2 to 3, maybe 4 to 7 miles out, which means they had to drop the people off, and at least 2 people had to go back. So that means there was only 5 people on the land by themselves.
So 5 people whooped everybody. We have to face the facts that some of us, some of our ancestors are responsible. Some of our tribes are responsible. And if we keep sitting here, keep saying the colonizers and oppressors, they did it, it's all them. Aren't we giving the power to redeem ourselves to someone else now? Could it be we are the inventors of white supremacy because we are the ones that keep perpetrating that somebody else is responsible for our conditions? Because if you push off responsibility, then that means you can't fix anything. You gave power to someone else over yourself.
You can't oppress me unless I allow it, especially nowadays.
Death is better than oppression. Death is better than oppression. Facts, Michael Robinson, and that's the part that we're saying here. We have to stop. We have to be honest. We got to stop saying someone else left, someone else did it, someone else did it. That's why we say also tie back into your tribes.
David, you're right. Not
all of us have. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're responsible for our brothers and sisters.
No, then he came back and he said, no, all of us have. You know what I'm saying? Because we do. Think about it. We have family members now that we look at shifty and shady. We have friends and people that because of our relationship with them, we'll watch them do something wrong or unjust to somebody else and keep our mouth shut to save our relationship with this person.
Doesn't that happen in the YouTube streets? You see somebody doing something they ain't got no business, but because they have a name or they have a lot of followers and they bring those followers to your channel, regardless of what they done that was wrong to the people, you continue to do business with them, do bills with them, knowing they have harmed people because you scared to say something.
You either scared to see something or you got your hands in the jar with them. GBA, guilt by association. If you know someone's a thief and you standing beside him, then guess what? You're a thief too.
And then got a nerve to get mad when somebody call out the action and want to make side comments. I ain't going somewhere.
I Am Flying Squirrel, he hit it right on the head. Most rappers be like, oh, that's my no matter what, if he right or wrong. Come on, I'm going to keep saying this again. I'm talking to my relatives, y'all. We relatives in here. If we can't be honest with ourselves, then we really got a problem. We know most of us back in our school days, rode in certain groups and cliques. We know our own personal wrongs and stuff that we did. Ain't none of us no saints. So why do we make it seem like it's impossible for this to go down like this if we've been doing it and we have done it in our own lifetime?
And some of us are still doing it. Still, today. Exactly, I'm Flying Squirrel. I fell out with a lot of people over some BS. Don't bring it over here.
Because the one thing history taught me, if you don't learn from the mistakes, you condemn to make them again and again and again and again. And what's the sense of studying history, reading history, if you're not correcting the mistakes? Because if you're reading history just to find a feel-good story, I advise you go buy a fictional novel.
David, sounds like your relatives don't get along with you because you're just and you don't put up with a BS. You don't let the fact that they are, in air quotes, family, keep you from calling it out. When you do wrong, it's wrong. Call it out.
Call it out.
I don't care if you don't like it. Stop doing wrong.
But I promise you, if we addressed it when it happened, I promise you we can fix this shorter than people think.
Yep.
It's not going to take 5, 10, 20 years. We can do this right now, one person at a time, because you can change the world. Your world is what revolves around you. Take acceptance for the action or the lack of actions that you do, for the wrongs that you have done. Take it upon yourself to fix the mistakes of your people. True indeed, we wasn't there to make the deals, but if we don't fix it, guess what we leave in next in this mess? Our children and their children and their children, children.
Antonio said, that blood don't mean nothing outside the matrix. If you think about it, that's kind of what the matrix is. It's like a family, right? Animals put in a cage together, they get along, regardless of whether they're just or unjust. People don't say nothing. They just let stuff happen, sing kumbaya, and say, let's all unite. Let's all be at peace. I can't be at peace if I know you're doing somebody wrong. That's not peace. That's allowing something wrong to happen. Aiding and abetting. I don't know, call it what you want.
Antonio says, you don't owe any man on this planet anything. It's plain. I'm going to read that correctly. All debts have already been paid. Anything outside of that is a man-made game. We're perpetuating BS 24/7.
Exactly. For what? YouTube views,
Handmade.
some money, a little bit of change, some recognition, ego stroking. I don't know. You tell me.
And I'm going to say this again about that whole blood thing. The blood that flows through your veins makes you related to someone. The term family, and I'm using this for lack of a better term, is used by how you stand with people, your relationship with people. You don't have to be of my blood, my relative, to be my family. See, a lot of people get mad at certain words that's used, but we have to also look at the contents of certain words. Because you share the same blood of me, mean you can't do wrong, or I can't judge you when you're wrong, or I can't speak out on it because you're wrong. But a person that considers themselves my family, I can address them. They can address me. It's crazy. We spend too much time fighting over the wrong things. Yes, David, yes, family does mean slaves at times, but who's using the word? A word is just a word. It's the expression that we apply to these words that actually give it meaning. We have to stop getting caught up in these endless loops that's not going to get us nowhere. Because if we can start fighting over a word, what's going on with the real fight? What's going on with the real fight?
This is what you call petty. And this is not directed to anybody in the chat, but it's a microcosm of what goes on in life. I will correct you over a word, but I won't correct you over a deed. I'm going to say it again. I will correct you over a word or the misuse of a word, but I will not correct you over a misdeed. Mm-hmm. If you scamming somebody, I don't say nothing. If somebody purchased something from you and you didn't deliver, I don't say nothing. But say the word black, I'm all on you like white on rice.
Mm-hmm. And I'll break it down even more. We all come from different neighborhoods. Neighborhood where I was raised, we use particular words and phrases that in your neighborhood you don't use and wouldn't understand. Because we take words and we apply our intent to it, our definition to it. See, we have to be careful. If I'm using a word in the general conversation, then I can apply my meaning to it. Now, what that does not apply is in law. That's when that word has a specific meaning in law. West Coast, they say doggy dog. You understand? Down south, they address people differently. Up north, they address people differently. Every neighborhood you go, there's a different dialect. Think about it. Our ancestors spoke different words. But what is correctly, David Corey, and understand that so everybody can start thinking. What is correctly to learn of words? You have to realize when you're using it. If you're using the word in law, I'm going to say it again, it has a specific meaning and definition. But if you're using the word to where, let's say, David, me and you talking, and we have like a particular, me, you, TMAs, no sellout, we hang out, whatever it is we do. And we have particular phrases and languages that we use amongst each other. And the definitions that we have, we understand. I want to use this right here. That's what I'm saying, that we spend too much time and not putting things in a proper place. Because then again, we just hear the air records call these people this. These people over here call these people this. Isn't this why tribes got so many different names now? Depending on who was the speaker using the word.
Yeah, Bones, you come in and breaking it. Check the signal.
1 2 1 2.
That's a lot better.
All right. Yeah, that's all I was saying, David Corey. I'm not speaking towards you directly or nothing like that. It's just in general to where I notice this a lot, that a lot of people jump down people's throats about words and stuff when there's bigger things on the table to worry about a word or a phrase.
Like
Especially outside of
said, you're the gag on a gnat, but you'll pass an elephant.
Yep.
Meaning, you see somebody commit a crime and financially harm somebody, but won't say nothing. But that same person can say Black, African American, or some other word, and you all own them like they stole some.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's all we're saying. It's not directed at no one. It's basically directed at all of us. Some of us are guilty of it. Even at times I had to find myself guilty of it, and it's something that I constantly work on and make sure I don't do, because we have to realize some people are just coming into this information, and the way we go about it, we can turn Indians completely off if we're sitting here banging over the simplest things over what words people use, and the American Indians out here struggling in these streets. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Like I said, yes, we got things we have to correct, but let's deal with the major issue. Then we can sit down and chop it up and work over these small little differences on words and lifestyles and things that's harmful to us. We can settle that after we get the major stuff. But why do I care about fixing a word in the term and it ain't getting us out of these situations?
A very appropriate statement that I've heard and I've used. Many of us have heard it. Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you saying. So it doesn't matter what you're saying. What are you doing? Who are you harming? Who are you wronging? Who are you covering up for? Because if your actions are wrong, I don't care what you're saying. I'm looking at what you're doing. So don't do dirt around me, because I'm going to call you out. And privately at first, then I'm going to call out in public. If you got a problem with it, you know the rest.
And Flying Squirrel, where he says, so basically we got to push them off the land to get it back. That's never going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why that's never going to happen. Because the more and more you read and you come to find out, George W. Bush and his family ties back in to American Indian tribes. They know their genealogy. We don't know ours. So now if y'all really want to have this fight, right, to try to kick them off, and they tie back into tribes, they know what tribes they tie back into. Because what, we ran off 4 or 5 presidents that tied back into the chief corn planter on his genealogy. They 4th time cousins, the Bushes are 4-time cousins. So now knowing this information, doesn't it make sense on how you see how they maneuver? One of us gets shot down and gets shot down in the back, don't nothing happen. Because they know who they are. We don't know who we are. A lot of these people that you wandering around saying pale face, pale face, pale face, I got a shocker for y'all. They're tied into tribes. Who you call white in 2019 could have been your mulatto in the 1800s.
Your cousin. Your
so
grand.
like I'm saying again, if you're not doing your genealogy, I wouldn't be trying to point fingers.
If you're not tied into a tribe, I wouldn't be trying to take any land, because you will lose it. Facts.
These people drilling and stuff on land that belongs to tribes. And how are they able to do it? It ain't no special sauce or nothing that they're using. They're able to do it because we're not participating. They playing the game. We not playing.
Man,
like David Corey said, we worried about the sports. We worried about sports. The dance move. Who dating who? What's the new dance move? Ain't these the same conditions that we was doing? I remember going through this in the 80s. Every 10 years, we just get a new device to keep us stagnant in the same spot that we in. And it seemed like the only time that we really get aggressive is the person on the other end look like us. No, not really, Antonio. That to do this, we don't have to bust a shot. I'm finna say it again. Most of your predominantly presidents, your people of power on this landmass, forget the skin color. Their families tie back into tribes. Whether it's by marriage or not, they're still part of that tribe because our ancestors, that's what they were doing. Our ancestors adopted different people. It's not about them going anywhere. It's that we're looking at the remnants of the first Native Americans. And TMH, you remember what we read about them, right?
Yep.
They were the children born. They were not part of the British Crown, and they were not part of the indigenous tribes because both sides didn't want them. So these children get together and they start formulating, going off in sections and becoming their own little tribes. Matter of fact, there's a whole tribe, Native American tribe we read about, and then one of them in the tribe is an Aboriginal.
Nope. Iron Fly Squirrel put up a great point. He says, we don't have to bust a shot if our folks recognize what this is all about. So yes. let's make it plain.
Mm-hmm.
Roll call. Remember when you was in school and the teacher used to call roll and they call you by your name
Yep.
And if you were here,
Present.
you got marked as present. If you weren't, you got marked as absent. Every tribe has a roll call with our names on it.
Are you answering it?
If you're not present, what does that make you?
Absent.
As
And
of
if you're
now,
absent,
many of us are tardy because we haven't got there yet.
mhm.
But if you get there, you can be present and you can claim your present, which is your land.
And David Corey stated something huge that, especially in our culture, we know about. Your grandma adopted many people. Some people in your family was adopted in. I know that because I had people that I grew up with in my neighborhood that we were so close that we're brothers and sisters to this day.
Let me ask you a question, Bones.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in class when you was younger and somebody went to the wrong class and sat there and their name wasn't on the roll?
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Depends on the person that's in the classroom. You're either going to get removed, or if you got a standing relationship, they'll let you hang out.
They'll let you hang out, but you're not
Yeah.
part of the class.
You're not part of the class. Yeah, you can hang out for the moment. Then once
So-
we get it corrected on where you're supposed to be.
Right. So let's look at it this way. The Americas have different classrooms, aka land.
Yep.
Each sector of land has a roll call. If your name ain't on it, you don't belong to that land. So you can sit there all there where you want to. But when the names get called and you ain't on it, you got to go.
Nowhere around that one. Like I said, though, it's laid out. The way for us to return has already been laid out. And it's been laid out before our time even came. I mean, we see it every day. We just don't use it. We allow everybody else to use our system to their benefit, but we don't use our ancestor system to our benefit. People be like, why we say business? Oh, it's not business. Well, that's the mistake. Have you ever taken the time to realize a corporation is set up identical to a tribe? They're identical in operation.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Identical. The same tasks and responsibilities. Aren't corporations and companies done right become self-sufficient? That designed in proper protocol, constitution, and bylaws, over time, it becomes a self-sufficient, organic, always growing thing. Didn't we read over a week that the majority, I'm willing to say like 75% of the wars that we're fighting were over commerce, over trade. Ain't other Indians stealing Indians' land and selling it to colonizers for profit? Ain't that a business?
Transaction to me.
Ain't a treaty a contract? It's more business than most people care to think. We must start back minding our business.
So here's a point. This is how indoctrinated we are. You are indoctrinated if you think a tribe is a business. You are aware if you understand a business is a tribe. Do I need to say it again? You are indoctrinated if you think a tribe is a business. You are aware if you know a business is a tribe.
Bingo.
If you want to lose some money, bet
Let's
me.
go. Let's go. We can go line for line on their operation.
Bet me on it. I'll take every dollar you got.
Don't tribes
Fiat
got
or otherwise.
don't tribes got a CEO?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't tell the secret. It's
don't
sacred.
do it to him yet?
Don't do
Okay.
it. Don't do
Yeah. They said it's sacred. Oh, my bad. David Corey said, could you possibly rewind?
I said, you are indoctrinated if you think a tribe is a business. You are aware if you know that a business is a tribe.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Dun, 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 dun.
In America, what came first, the tribe or the business? I'll wait.
Dun, 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 dun.
Don't play with me.
Let's get to digging, y'all. Let's do some real digging. We ain't talking about them plastic shovels and beach buckets. We talking about backhoes, dump trucks.
They've been studying us for over 600 years. But yet we have leaders telling us we don't need to deal with them. Yet still, you gonna tell me we don't need to deal with them, but you have a cell phone. We don't need to deal with them, but you have YouTube. You don't need to deal with them, but you got Google.
Come on.
But we don't need to deal with them. If you don't go sit down and take several seats, you better. Get off those platforms and then we'll talk. Oh, that's right. You can't.
But you know what'd be funny with me about our people? We complain about the colonizers on one hand, and on the other hand, I got that drip though. What? I'm finna say it again. We'll sit here, complain about the colonizers, their lifestyle, they need to go home, get off our land, but we taking our money, buying them shoes, buying that jewelry, buying them clothes. Last I remember, wasn't Joseph Brant and a lot of them Indians, didn't they admire that European culture?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they give up their own to dress like them, to look like them, to talk like them, to make money like them? So I'm finna ask everybody, if your main motivation is the dollar, you're more colonized than you think.
So I'm gonna make this statement, but first I'm gonna preface. If it wasn't for the fact that I got let go by a government contracting company, I would still be working. So with that being said, understand I have nothing against people that work or people that have a job. But if you're banging on a colonizer and you're talking this talk and you have a job, what are you doing?
Yeah, how you gonna tell him so? Oh, the hell with the colonizer. Well, you ain't giving him that check back at the end of the week, I bet. You gracefully taking that and spending it. You waking up every day working for him, but you so rebellious and revolutionary. You want other people to sit here, hop out there, scream this, while you collecting yours. Colonization to me.
Okay, I'm not knocking anybody that has a job. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying. Make no mistake about it. Everybody has to find a way to provide for their loved ones. We're talking about people that are standing in front of you, bang on this, tell you to do this and tell you to do that, but at the same time, they clocking in on a 9 to 5. So how rebellious are you? You can't be saying that you hate the colonizer. You can't stand them. You don't want to be around them, but you clocking in every day. So basically, you faking the funk. You over here telling us one thing, then when you get over there around them, you telling them another thing. That sounds like Joseph Brant to me. Like facts, flying squirrel, because if we put people in groups like they did, we are them. We're no better. Judge people on an individual basis. Our Creator tell us, judge people on how they treat you. Treat people how you want to be treated. And the way we treat each other is a shame because it tells the rest of the world how we want them to treat us. Because if we don't have respect for each other, if we do not have respect for each other, how do you expect anybody else to respect us?
It's not gonna happen. Not at all.
The core is stupid.
I know, right? All we're saying is don't just listen to what people say, watch what they do. Because at the end of the day, your actions will tell on you. And maybe that's the reason why people want to do stuff in secret and keep it sacred so their actions won't tell on them. Remember, there is some information that can be shared. And there's no constitution anywhere that prevents us from sharing information that will help other people. If it exists, let me know. I'll apologize if I'm wrong.
Our tribes encourage us to help each other. Because depending on what area your relatives was in at a particular time, a lot of our relatives was in the same with tribal mates until they moved and went different places.
Yep.
But I'm going to say it again. If you don't take the time out to know thyself, do thy genealogy, thy lineage, then you'll never know.
Ooh, something happened to YouTube stream.
I'm watching it now. It's still showing. Hold on.
I see an error occurred. Please try again later.
It's still showing on my end.
I don't mind. Hold on.
Yeah, it changes your heart, David Corey. Well, that's why we got to do our due diligence as well, is that just because someone looks like you or is in relation with you, that doesn't mean that you just accept them with open arms blindly. You still have to vet everyone. Because of the situation, you must vet everyone. And this is what the colonizers knew. They knew it was inevitable that you cannot keep a mass amount of people asleep for so long, that eventually you'll start waking up and shaking it off. Well, how do you eliminate yourself being supplanted? They made sure they became our family members.
Breaking up, Bones.
One, two, one, two.
Yeah, you still break up a little bit.
1, 2, 1, 2.
That's worse now. Somebody don't like you talking. Maybe this information is hitting a little too hard.
One, two, 1, 2.
Nah, it's worse. David said we banging too hard. Yeah, at the end of the day, how can I put this? You can't be sensitive and be ready to go to work. If the only thing you want is somebody to just get along or be along or make you feel good about yourself, you ain't real. You're a little too sensitive. You need a hug. Go get that from somewhere else. I'm just saying. And for the record, the person or persons screaming peace, peace, peace the hardest while they're coming to you, look out for that knife behind their back. Because if you coming to me in peace, you shouldn't have to keep saying it. Because why are you trying to convince me that you're coming in peace if you're coming in peace? Your actions would dictate that you're coming in peace. If you're trying to convince me that you're coming in peace, you're not coming in peace.
You're going to leave in pieces.
If I got to keep telling you that I'm an honest person, what am I really saying? Think about it. If I got to keep telling you I'm a good person, what am I saying? If I got to keep telling you that I'm trustworthy, what am I saying? Sleight of hand. Don't look at what people say. Watch what they do. Watch their actions. If they're trying to conceal their actions, you really need to watch them. Because what are they hiding? It's a secret. I can't tell you. You better go on somewhere. Why do people do stuff in the dark? So they can't be seen. And if everything you do is in the dark, what does that say about you? Nothing you do is in the light, but everything you do is in the dark. How can I trust you? I'll wait. You can't share nothing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Everything's a secret. Okay.
So how do you help someone if everything's a secret?
You don't. You don't. Because it's a secret.
My question is, if you're helping people, are you telling the people that you're helping to keep it a secret? So they can't tell anybody? I mean, because, I don't know. You might have testimonials out there.
That could be beneficial, right? Again, I understand there's some things that need to be kept secret. For instance, if my family was down and out and we needed some money and Bones and No Sellout took care of me and my family, that would probably be something I wouldn't want nobody to know about. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't put me in a good light.
Facts.
So that needs to be a secret. That needs to be between me and you two. Then you have those things that are sacred, like tribal rituals, information that's only meant for the tribe. And the only way you can get that information is to be vetted, meaning you get brought into the tribe, AKA family. You don't get this information unless you're family. So you got to be vetted. You got to show and be proven. That means something needs to be verified and somebody needs to sponsor you. Think about this. When you get onto organizations, doesn't everybody have a sponsor? Somebody that's going to be responsible for you? And if something happens, that person that brought you in is responsible, right? Why?
Yep.
Because the information that you're going to be learning is sacred, right? So you have secret and you have sacred. And then you have shared, public knowledge, public information just for the benefit of everybody. Meaning, if I share something, I don't have to know you for it to benefit you. And it doesn't hurt me for sharing it. But if everything you do is in secret, who are you helping? How can it benefit somebody if can't nobody see it? If don't nobody know about it?
And are you helping if can't nobody ever see it and know about it? I mean, who are you?
Or you trying to create a super team, trying to be Golden State.
But even then, you would still let people know.
Nerds, no, you only letting the jocks know. You ain't letting the nerds know.
But with this information here, doesn't it help when people from the communities that we live in can stand up and say, I did my genealogy, I typed into my tribe, and it's successful. How else are you going to know that if people don't step up and let the people who are just coming into the info know? So basically, by this standing, all of us on this panel who are aware of who we are, we shouldn't be trying to help the ones that don't know. That's basically what they're saying. Because people want to go down with a title. I want to call themselves the first. Nobody alive at this time is the first spread in any of this info. I don't care who your name is, because you got it from a book. That means another person jotted it and documented it down. Let's stop being stupid. I'm the first to break the information out. But then you read it from a book that was written in the 1800s, so how you the first?
That's similar to them comments. Back in the day, people used to try to be the first comment on celebrity pages. Just say first. Like, what is that about? Like, are you a teenager? First?
Ego tripping.
You racing to the front of the cafeteria line?
It's
Like,
about
what?
recognition. It's about recognition.
They want the recognition.
Yeah.
That
Jeez,
y'all
Louise.
know me. I really don't mind. I tell it how it is. People want to go down as being known. Oh, I'm the one that brought the information to the people. I. Well, get your eye butt on the sideline, because you in the way right now. We got work to do.
Hey, Indian start with I. No, that's terrible. That's a terrible way to go about it.
And that's really what it is. And people hurt and want to cause disruptions, confusion, spread misnomers and flat out lies, because now you have to actually put up a shut up. And this not directed at nobody particular, but hit dogs gonna holler.
Hit dogs will bark.
Whatever you're doing out there to help the embedment of this community, keep doing what you're doing. But those of you that are in this community with ulterior motives, your time's up. Truth don't need nobody to tell it. The truth stand on its own. I guess on that note, we are 2 hours in. Anything else we building on, or?
No, man. I mean, I think we touched on everything.
Okay. And like we always say, this is not banging on anyone. We're just trying to have a conversation that Ben needed to have amongst us, not the outside world, amongst us. Yes, they can listen, but they have no input on the decision. We have to come together and decide as a whole, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. If a person is in this community, they can't tell you what they stand for. They can't show you the work that they're doing. That's a con man. You're going to sell me a TV, but I can't look at the TV first. Any closing remarks, TMH, or no sellout?
Man, that's bricks in a box. Nah, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Check out the website. It's all in the chat. Y'all have a good day. Great day. Grand day.
If you see something, say something. That don't mean embarrass somebody on their channel. Go to the side and ask them to explain. Because at the end of the day, everybody has a reason why they do or they don't do something. And it might be a great reason. So if we don't know, then ask. But don't ask them in public or try to embarrass them. Pull them to the side. Let's do this respectfully. And then wait for the answer. And then watch the actions. Do your family tree. Do your genealogy. Tie it to the land. Answer that roll call. Find your tribe. Let us know you found your tribe. We'll help you and your tribe. I relinquish the mic.
And on that note, this is C.A.B. calling Aboriginal Bloodlines, presented by Tontinus Assembly. You can always find us at www.autonomousassembly.com. You can also find us on Twitch at Autonomous Assembly. And y'all know our YouTube pages. So until the next Rising, like always, it been great. Peace.
Peace, y'all.